Make it stick. Another day, another dollar. Let's go. Anki. First thing we always do is check our flashcards. Yep, we got 4 today. Let's do it. What is chapter 2 of Make It Stick about in one sentence? Retrieval practice, or the act of retrieving, leads to more learning than review or rereading or re-exposure. Right? It's basically the act of retrieving is how we learn. It feels more effortful. It argues that retrieval practice, the effortful act of pulling knowledge from memory, is the most effective way to strengthen learning and long-term retention. I've basically said this. Retrieval practice is like the way we learn, or the most effective way we learn. What do I say here? Did I get that? Did I not? It's about retrieval practice being the most effective learning technique. I'll say hard. How does mental effort relate to durable learning, according to the authors? As long as it's retrieval based, the more effort, the more learning. The more effortful the retrieval, the stronger the learning. The struggle is a sign of real learning. Cool, got that one. What is retrieval practice and why is it superior to passive review? Retrieval practice is the act of pulling things out of memory, from your own memory. Passive review, it's superior because it strengthens memory traces, triggers reconsolidation, is more effortful, which leads to more neurological change. Passive review leads to estimations of abilities, overconfidence, fluency, mistaking fluency for mastery. Retrieval is better because it leads to better learning, more brain change. It also leads to better understanding of your own weaknesses and strengths. Retrieval practice is actively recalling information from memory, which strengthens neural pathways, improves long-term retention, unlike passive review, which creates illusions of knowing. Cool. What role does feedback play in retrieval practice? Feedback improves learning via strengthening memories, but also correcting inaccuracies and misunderstandings and reinforcing things that you got correct. Feedback helps correct errors and reinforce correct knowledge, especially when delayed after retrieval attempts. Okay, good enough. Okay, so that's the flashcards for the day. Now we will recall what we did yesterday. So yesterday we were reading a section, second to last section in the 3rd chapter, Mixed Practice, which I believe is called These Principles Are Broadly Applicable. We would have read about Coach Booley. Is he Booley? Coach Booley, I believe, from Georgia University of Georgia, who was the head coach for a couple decades, like the 60s to 80s, won a national championship, very winning coach. And this whole section is kind of about him and his strategy and approach to learning, and how successful athletic programs mirror or use these effective learning techniques, whether they know it or not. So we look at like his approach to football college football revolves around, there's a new game every Saturday basically, and so every week you've got to learn the new opponent, learn their strategies, strategize yourself, how you're going to counter them, learn the matchups, all that stuff. So there's that, and then on top of that, you've got to stay sharp on your fundamentals, keep practicing the basics and the fundamentals. You've also got to have everyone memorize the playbook and the special plays. So there's all this different learning, interleaved practice, varied practice, new information that needs to be memorized, old information that needs to stay sharp. So it's very learning based and heavy. So they use it, effective techniques. They use effective techniques whether they knew it or not. Spaced reps, practicing the special plays every Thursday. They did, when they would work on new plays, they would break it down player by player, slowly in chunks. They would chunk it and they'd stitch it together, play it team by team, slow it down initially, then speed it up. So they're varying practice, slower and then faster. They're also interleaving, doing different plays in between other plays, practicing at full speed, different speeds, the varied practice. And then spacing them day to day, week to week. So they're using these effective learning techniques in order to have a successful athletic program. I think that may be about it. For what we read yesterday. Let's see. Did we finish reading this yesterday? Dooley. I said Booley? Dooley. What the? Did I don't know. I think I read this as well. Yeah. I read the end of Improving Complex Mastery for Medical Students yesterday as well. So what type of experience, how do we learn from experience? Because we experience a lot. What do we learn from? What do we don't? Basically, they refer to like the experience we learn from is the experience that we reflect on. Reflection is the active process of, going back, connecting things, making sense of things. That active process of pulling things from your own memory is the process of learning from experience. So reflection. Right, then we talked about these medical in-services and residency, medical residency, where they have the students basically come in, listen to a lecture for most of the day, a couple hours, then they leave. Essentially, they forget the stuff once they leave. So Larson, this character, or this guy in that section, was just saying, like, why do we have, is this not a waste of time to have, all these medical students come and listen to lectures for a couple hours and then not be tested on it? It's not supported by learning science to be effective at all. And he was pushing basically for these, after the lectures, you get quizzed or tested, and then you get an email a couple times after, spaced reps with these questions again, to make sure you really do solidify this knowledge, rather than just come in, consume a bunch of stuff, get exposed to a bunch of stuff, leave, forget it. That was a waste of time. I think we read that yesterday. Okay. Okay. So successful athletics, lots of spaced reps, interleave reps, varied reps. All right. Now we'll continue reading. I should be able to finish this section. These principles are broadly applicable today, and then we'll be essentially into the takeaway as well today, so I'll be back in a sec. All right, that section is now complete. What I just read about was basically how do players memorize the playbook. Well, they take it home, they memorize it, they rehearse it mentally, they may walk through the steps, but they rehearse it. They rehearse it mentally. This is huge for athletics, because if you're doing full exertion practices all the time, you just get worn out. So this mental rehearsal and reflection, recall, still retrieval practice, but not necessarily with your body fully, super important for building those neural structures without wearing your body out completely. Okay? Top tier athletic programs, they use recall, they use retrieval, they use varied practice, interleave practice, spaced repetitions, elaboration, strategy, elaboration, and then rehearsal, reflection. All right, so that's everything. Now we're into the final section of chapter 3, the takeaway. So pretty cool to be this far. I'll go ahead and read a few paragraphs, then we'll be back to recall, and then we'll probably call it a day. So talk to you in a sec. All right, just read the first page of the takeaway of chapter 3, Mix Up Your Practice. These summary sections always are super dense. Every paragraph has got information that's valuable. But oh shoot, I didn't write what was this section about for improving. What is this section about for improving complex mastery for medical students, or for these principles are broadly applicable? So for improving complex mastery for medical students, we can say what would this section be about? I would say it's basically about lessons learned from medical training, successful medical training. I would say, yeah, a few lessons learned from medical training / education. And then for these principles are broadly applicable, what is this section about? And then this will all say successful programs, successful athletic programs employ recall, spaced reps, interleaved reps, varied reps, elaboration, and reflection. Okay. So basically, I kind of, in the summary, I kind of realized that Chapter 3, Mix Up Your Practice, is really about spaced, interleaved, and varied practice versus mass practice, right? And the pitfalls of mass practice and the benefits of spaced, interleaved, and varied practice. So mass practice, it leads to, it's completely normal to opt for mass practice and want to use a mass practice and believe it's productive and highly effective and the most effective learning strategy, because we can see visual progress when we're playing or we're learning. We can literally see it in real time. But so we believe. But they kind of brought up two terms that I had not heard until this summary section. That is momentary strength versus underlying habit strength. And so they basically say mass practice leads to developing momentary strength, which means it's here now and it's momentary, it goes away quickly after, versus underlying habit strength, which means cold, you can pull out, like how much strength you have in this, how much knowledge, how strong is, how robust, how nuanced is this neural structure, cold, not after a bunch of mindless reps. So mass practice leads to momentary strength that comes quickly and is forgotten really quickly as well, versus spaced, interleaved, and varied practice, which develops underlying habit strength. Okay. So yeah, dang it. Mass practice leads to quick forgetting. There's one more thing I'm forgetting now. Dang it. What would it be about? Right, the optimal time. What's the optimal time to wait to delay practice sessions? How long should you interleave or space? How long should the spacing window be? It's abstract. There's not an exact number. It's going to vary depending on how well you know something versus how complex it is, how well you already understand it, how many times you've already recalled it, etc. But basically, it's like you should wait enough time that some forgetting has occurred, because this little bit of forgetting increases the amount of cognitive effort required to recall, which leads to more reconsolidation, more strengthening of the neural structure. So a little bit of forgetting, but not too much forgetting that you forget everything and you need to relearn it. it also should be long enough where it's not mindless repetitions, right? And then they also said sleep is hypothesized, or not hypothesized, has been shown to be important for the consolidation of memories. And so, spanning it over at least a day seems to be good, so that you have a sleep session in between recalls or repetitions. So, all right. That's it for today. We have made more progress. We may actually finish up reading chapter 3 tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not. Probably. Hold on, what? Oh, there it is. Probably not. Because of how dense these takeaway sections always are. So maybe a day or two will probably be done reading chapter 3, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's only 8 chapters in this book, and we're about to finish chapter 3. It felt like this book we'd never get through it, but we still got a long ways to go. But hey, we're making progress. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.